I'm reading the second quadrant of Storm Runners The Surge, the second one in the series by Roald Dahl with permission by Scholastic. So it's pretty exciting. We've got a cat running around with a monkey in its mouth. We've got the giraffe didn't make it. The bus driver didn't make it. Nicole and Chase have taken off to try and get gas because they don't think it's safe to try and let the elephant give birth without being able to see. So let's see what's going on. It's 5:53 a.m. I vote for going to the shelter, Mark said, at least long enough to get some coffee and to use the bathroom. It would give us a chance to catch up on the latest hurricane reports, Cindy added. John hated to backtrack, but he had to agree. Going to the emergency shelter was probably their best option at the moment. They needed to check the truck out. Something was wrong with the steering. So remember, it had tipped over on the train trestle and it was really dangerous. They were worried it was going to tip over into the rushing water, but they got it upright. And so now people are saying, okay, let's go to the shelter. Tomas was having a difficult time keeping the 4x4 on the highway, and it wasn't just because of Hurricane Emily. A police cruiser with a flashing light marked the road to the emergency shelter. The policeman stayed inside his car, waving them past with a flashlight. The road led them to a large high school gymnasium. The parking lot looked as if the state basketball tournament were being played. So if it looks like the state basketball tournament was being played, they're saying it's all packed full. So think about all those people who couldn't get home during this hurricane. A lot of people didn't make it home, Cindy said. Mark pointed. There's an empty spot. Tomas drove by the empty spot and then passed up 3 more. Where are you going? Cindy asked. Tomas didn't answer. John switched on a spotlight outside the passenger window. Before we go inside, we need to circle the building and check for structural damage. The gym's made out of concrete, Mark pointed out. Water can take down any building regardless of the material, John said. Water's the most powerful thing on Earth. The Grand Canyon was created by water. So there was a trickle of water, they think, or no more than a river, and it carved out the Grand Canyon. So we've been studying about water and about how powerful water is, and water can move just about anything. He swung the spotlight between the foundation and the roof line as they slowly circled the building. When they got back to the parking lot, he switched the spot off. Well, Mark asked. So far so good, John answered. Hope you brought rubber boots. I can't remember the last time I was dry, Mark said. Tomas parked the truck, jumped out, and then disappeared from sight. Where'd he go? Cindy asked. Under the truck. Something's broken. Why don't you and Mark head into the gym? Tomas and I will be in after we figure out the problem. Watch out for WPPs, and when you get inside, find a spot next to one of the exits to hang out. You want to be near the door if the building starts to collapse. Good safety tip, Mark said. He and Cindy waded through the ankle-deep water to the gymnasium. 5:56 a.m. Don't move, Nicole said. Chase wasn't sure if she was talking to him or to the lion, but he froze in mid-step just to be safe. Nicole put her lips close to his ear and whispered, It's Simba. He can't see us. Her warm breath sent a shiver down his neck, or maybe it was the lion's unblinking eyes drilling into him. Our headlamps are blinding him, Nicole continued. We're downwind, so he can't smell us either, and he can't hear us with the wind rattling the metal buildings. He's as confused and frightened as we are. I'm not sure that's true. I'd be more scared than the lion, I think. Simba was standing 15 feet away and did not look confused or frightened to Chase. He looked hungry and impossibly big. Nicole had told him the day before that Simba had been retired from the circus after mauling his trainer. If Simba was loose, the other lions might be loose as well. 3 females and 1 immature male. Simba was twice as big as the young male. Right now, he looked like he was ready to pounce and tear them to shreds. On the count of 3, we'll turn our headlamps off, Nicole whispered. While Simba's eyes adjust back to the dark, he'll be temporarily blinded, and we'll run over to the next building. Temporarily blinded? Chase thought. How long does temporary last? Nicole was cradling the shotgun in her arms, which seemed like a better and more permanent solution to their lion problem than turning their headlamps off. 3, Nicole said. What happened to 1 and 2? Chase switched his headlamp off a second behind Nicole. She grabbed his arm and pulled him to the left. Simba might have been temporarily blinded, but so were they. Chase couldn't see a thing. He allowed Nicole to drag him into the darkness. They got to the wall of the second building and started inching along it with the wind at their back. Chase hoped there weren't 4 lions in front of them. 6 a.m. What are you doing here? Richard Krupp shouted across the crowded gymnasium. Cindy and Mark had not even checked in with the emergency worker at the table near the entrance when Richard Krupp, the #1 news anchor in St. Petersburg, Florida, barreled his way to the front of the line. We're here for the basketball game, Mark said. The weather slowed us down a bit. Who's winning? I'm serious, Richard said. So am I. Mark glanced at the emblem on the wall of the dimly lit gym. I never miss a Florida Hams game. I think it says Rams, Cindy said. Whatever. I never miss one of their games. Hey, what's with all the cots on the court? Cindy laughed. Richard glowered. You won't be cracking jokes in a couple of hours when you're fired for not showing up for work. No worries, Mark said. We resigned. Really? Yep. When? A couple of hours ago. We dropped by to let you know. But they really don't like him very much, do they? I thought you said you came here for a basketball game. That too. Why'd you quit? We had an epiphany. An epiphany means kind of the light bulb goes on. We understood something. That's a big word, Mark. It's a big feeling, Richard. How'd you get here? Drove? Station vehicle? Private vehicle. But you still have the station camera. Give it to me and I'll take it back. No can do, Richard. I signed my life away for this thing. I'll return it personally. What about the video inside? That too. I can take it from you. You can try, Mark smiled. So why do you think Richard wants that tape? Think about that. Back off, both of you, Cindy said. We're wet, we're tired, and we're hungry. She looked at Richard. And we're not giving you the video we shot. Richard Krupp backed off, but not very far. He pulled his sat phone out and woke the station manager from a very sound sleep. 6:01 a.m. The walk to the end of the second barn seemed to take an hour, but according to Chase's watch, it was less than 5 minutes. The luminous hands looked as bright as the sun in the pitch dark. Luminous means they're made so they glow in the dark. If I can see the hands on my watch, Simba can see the hands on my watch. Chase slipped his watch off his wrist and stuffed it into his pocket next to the tranquilizer gun. He and Nicole found the door to the barn open, banging against the metal side. Chase went over the list of animals Nicole had shown him during his tour of the barn. 1 brown bear, 3 zebras, 4 ostriches, some parrots, and Hector. Nicole started to go in, but Chase put his hand on her shoulder. What are the chances of Hector sneaking back inside here to get away from the hurricane? Nicole stopped and frowned. So there is a chance that we are standing between a lion and a leopard, Chase continued. Is there any gas inside the barn? Nicole shook her head. Maybe we should skip inspecting this barn and go directly to the barn where the shack and shop is parked. We don't have a lot of time before the generator runs dry. I need to check on the animals, Nicole said. If I'd checked earlier, Gertrude might still be alive. What could you have done? That's the problem, Nicole said. I'll never know. We also don't know if Hector is inside here waiting for us. The door's wide open. Simba might be waiting inside for us as well. I doubt Simba slipped in front of us. No problem then, Chase said. We'll just walk into a dark barn with a bear, a few zebras, some ostriches and parrots, and maybe a killer leopard. I get your point, Nicole said with a slight smile. It's not a smart move. Why don't you go get the gas and pick me up on your way back? No, we're sticking together. Well, then we need to check on the animals. Chase knew there was no point in arguing with her. They were wasting time. I'll go in first, Nicole said. Be my guest. You're the one with the shotgun. Nicole took 2 steps into the barn and stopped. Chase followed and closed the door firmly so Simba couldn't sneak in behind them. providing he isn't already in the barn waiting to devour us. Devour means eat. Chase looked around nervously, slicing his headlamp back and forth through the darkness. Any second, he expected Hector to attack or the bear to run out of the shadows and tear his head off. They stepped deeper into the darkness. Chase glanced down to see 2 inches of standing water covering the cement floor. How far are we from the coast? Chase asked. What? The surge, Chase said. This water isn't just coming from the lake in the back of your house. There's too much of it. I think we're getting floodwaters from 2 directions. The Gulf is 3 miles away as the crow flies, Nicole said. Maybe a little less. She took a few more tentative steps forward. Something moved to their left. Something big. Bear, Nicole said. Chase swung his headlamp in the direction of the movement. The bear was 20 feet away from them, pushing on the metal wall with his giant paw. We'll be okay, Nicole said calmly. I guess that depends on your definition of okay, Chase said. 6:07 a.m. John and Tomas stepped into the gymnasium. Organized, John thought, and relatively calm. Probably about 200 people. He had been in a dozen shelters over the past 2 years, in gymnasiums, sports arenas, and convention centers. When he and Tomas had first started following weather disasters, they had gone to shelters to solicit work, but quickly learned that most of the people in shelters had nowhere else to go. Business owners and wealthy people stayed on their properties, checked into high-end hotels, or left town altogether. John and Tomas had entered the gym near the makeshift hospital area where people were being treated for all sorts of weather injuries. Lacerations, that means cuts, bruises, broken bones, heart attacks, nervous breakdowns. Nurses and doctors scurried between cots, treating wounds, checking IV fluids, replacing ice packs, and handing out medications. A food and water station had been set up in the middle of the gym so everyone could get to it easily. It was crowded with people grabbing donuts, pizza, water, and coffee. Breakfast of champions. Surrounding the station was a sea of cots and folding chairs filled with people wondering how long it would be before they could go home, assuming they still had homes. At their feet were boxes and bags of precious possessions they could not leave behind. Name, address, and social security number, the emergency worker said, sliding 2 clipboards to them. I'll need to see some identification, too, if you have it. Their IDs were wet. They flipped open their swollen wallets and filled out the forms. The emergency worker looked at the licenses. Whoa, a long way from home. What brings you to this neck of the woods? Just passing through, John said. Bad timing. Tell me about it. Are either of you injured? No, just tired and wet. Well, the locker room is open if you don't mind a cold shower. We're using generators for lights and heat. Not enough juice to warm the water, but you'll find plenty of towels. I'm afraid there are no dry clothes. We brought in a big load, but they were all used up in the first wave. We'll be fine. John scanned the gym for Cindy and Mark, but he didn't see them. What's it like out there? The emergency worker asked as John and Tomas headed towards the locker room. Breezy, John said, and wet. We'll be doing the next part soon.